Hey, what's going on, everybody? Joe Menza here. I thought I'd do something a little different, maybe a little fun, and I decided to pull out the old little travel set. A lot of you might already have this, a lot of people might be thinking about buying something like this, and the question is, how can I use it with my Hake? Now, here I am spraying it down with a water bottle just to activate the dried paint, and I'm just cleaning out the wells here so I can mix paint in the wells. Now I'm going to use a small Ron Ranson Pro Art Hake here. This is the smallest size that they make. Now I've known some people that trim this thing down so that it is even smaller. Of course, you'd have to, you'd have to cut away hair from the Hake. I don't really want to do that. Right now, I'm going to take and just add my 3 coats of water. Let's say you were going on a trip or something, you didn't want to take anything heavy duty with you, tubes of paint or whatever. You could get by with a little set like this. This is Winsor & Newton set of paints. It's not my usual palette, but I'll just go ahead and wing it here. So the trick is to get the bristles into the little pans, which are very tiny. You could probably do something bigger than this, but here's the raw sienna. And as you can see, you can fit it in each little square here. And you can also use the wells to kind of mix and spread things out as needed. So just doing what we usually do, we're adding our raw sienna, or it could be yellow ochre, to the background, just to create a little backdrop for our painting. Okay, and I've got my little water bucket here. You can use a cup. There is a little travel set like this that has a built-in water reservoir that you can use and pour out. That's a nice little travel set. I'm taking my ultramarine blue here. You can see you can fit the bristles in there almost just right. You might pick up some other colors if you overlap. But this is ultramarine blue, so we're just going to put a little sky, a little cloud looking elements in here. I'm just kind of making up something as I go along. Putting a little white. There's a little Chinese white in one of these wells. And just to play with the opacity a little bit. Adding a little bit of red. And just a little bit more white. And you're going to need these little wells to mix, because ordinarily if you have your tray with the poured out paint, you can kind of mix them together in the middle of that tray, but here you need to use these wells. And just leaving some white in the middle here, and maybe some water or something on the bottom. Here I'm just kind of splashing some water in, just to have some fun. And just adding some water from my bowl. A little more blue, a little more red, a little yellow. Trying to get a darker color here, a darker gray, by using the primaries. And just to add a little clouds. And back to the travel palette again. And we're going to mix up something for some background shrubs here. A little bit of yellow. Not sure what's in there. I think that's a lemon or a cad yellow in there. Mix it with a little raw sienna. And I'm just quickly laying this in here. Like I said, if you took something like this on a trip, I mean, you can use a smaller piece of paper, obviously, but you can take this out with you. You can use a sketchbook. and take your small hake. I could have used a sketchbook, but I figure in this one it's easier to see on a larger scale. Now there's a green that's in here, and I believe it's Viridian green. It's not something I normally use, but just for experiment's sake, we'll try to use all the colors in here. It's not a bad green when you mix it with other things. By itself, it's a little garish looking. It's a nice little travel set, though. We're utilizing the frayed ends of the hake to create some foliage. So we've got the makings, the layout for a nice little painting here. Some brightness in the sky. Now here's a blue. I'm not sure what that is. I think that's Windsor blue. It's a little too extreme. I think that's Windsor blue. One of the things that's hard with something like this, and I just give a little spray to activate it a little more. It's hard getting enough paint out of the pans. If these pans were twice the size, I think it would work really well. You have to really work at it though, trying to dig out in those little pans. Sort of a fun thing, just coming up with different ideas for videos here. Something you might have at home. I mean, you might have a travel set like this. As I said, somebody said they trimmed away like half of the bristles. They made it even smaller hake. Of course, you're going to be damaging or altering your hake. Once you do that, you can't, take it back. But it would be an interesting way to have even a smaller size hake. We got a nice little variety of color back there. I'm taking my toothbrush and flicking some color in. Or some water. I'm flicking water in with the toothbrush. So we go back to the tray here and just try to mix up some different greenery colors. They're nice colors. I mean, I try to go for a little more realistic of what you see outside. But if you want those brighter colors, and I know a lot of people like them, the more brighter, more vivid colors, something more colorful, then this tray does have some nice colors. I do believe these are equivalent to the Cotman colors, too, in this tray. But there is no Payne's gray. So if there's a color you don't want to use, for example, say you didn't want to use the Viridian, you could probably not put that cube in there and fill up one of the pots or pans with Payne's gray. I am missing not having the Payne's gray, I have to say. I may look around for a palette that's a little bigger than this one with some wells, because I am enjoying using this to an extent. It's a little more work to get it out, but it's definitely handy for travel. Taking a lot of scrubbing to get more paint onto the end of the bristles for sure. If you want to get good, strong paint in there, like I'm trying to do here to put this tree, getting a nice deep brown. And using the side of the palette to try to flatten out the hake, because the hairs are getting a little unmanageable. I'll throw another tree in over here. And I'm throwing in some branches just using the hake rather than using a rigger brush. Just in case, I'm imagining if I went out and I just had my Hake and I just had my travel set. I'm sure I'll go back to the... You almost got to have a rigger, I think, though, for little branches. Take our little card. Give it a quick scrape just to create some bark effects. Some nice colors. I think it's a nice green if you were coming up with a little more fantasy type painting as opposed to going for sort of the realistic greens. Now I'm just kind of blending in. There's some Windsor blue mixed in. I'm just creating some interesting ground foliage there, foreground. As I said, it's not my usual 7 colors that I use. It takes a while working. That's why you work with a smaller palette with less colors, because there's so many different combinations that you can mix. And after a while of working with the same 7 colors, like in the Ron Ranson suggested beginner palette, you get used to those colors and you know what mixes with what. So you introduce a couple other colors, you don't really, it takes a little time before you can say, oh, well, that looks good, I mix it with that, you know. So I'm into my rigger brush here. Just adding a few little smaller branches, little squiggles and wiggles. Obviously the rigger brush is no problem with the travel palette. Your travel palette may have come with a brush, mine did, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. Plus, I think I forgot to clean it, and the bristles got real hard. With watercolor, though, it usually doesn't ruin the bristles. I mean, it might cause them to be frayed, or you can train it back again, I found, if I forgot to take a brush out of the bucket. Not ideal, though. It's not something you want to do. Now here I'm going to put some leaves in, and look, I got some red accidentally picked up on the bristles, which is fine, really. I mean, it actually looks okay. Trying to get some yellow up on there. Some yellow and some green. Very easily slip this little palette, your brush, in a bag, and then buy yourself a watercolor book, like I don't know, say 7 by 10 sketchbook kind of watercolor book. I've added some darker green in there, just trying to get some variety. Again, just a little made up scene with a couple of trees. See how the hake is? It's bent on its side, and you've got the bristles are spread apart. Perfect for making like grass or separated foliage. And that happens by not having a lot of water on your brush. If you want water on your brush and you want to bring the hairs together, just dip the first 1/8 of an inch of the bristles into your water bucket, and you'll bring the hairs back together. See, you can see the bristles there. Just give it a little spray. Keep it wet. Really re-scrape that area. Scrape in some rocks too. Some people tell me they have problems with the scraping and whether or not it's the paper. It can be the paper, but you really need a good amount of paint. If you're going to practice scraping rocks, put a lot of paint on, heavy. And the more heavier it is and darker it is, the more your rocks will look and have that bright look to them. That Windsor blue is creating a weird, not weird, but a different effect than I'm used to in that tree foliage. Kind of neat in a way, I think. Give it a little flick with some water off the toothbrush. And back to the rigger brush again. Idea here really is to have fun, you know, put a little background in, a couple of trees, take your travel kit, sit outside in your patio, and just enjoy the nice weather. If there's something nice to paint that you can use for reference, then that's even better. For some reason, when I make up a painting, I always have the same left-right side brain. I do two trees, a left and a right side, almost like a mirror image or something. That little middle area serves as a nice little break between with the, maybe it's a little water. Just a little dry brush, just a little scumbling with the rigger. And I do like the spattering of the toothbrush. It kind of breaks up solid areas, lets the watercolor do sort of little different effects. And we'll go back to the small hake again. You see how I have to dig in there to really get the color out. So adding just a little more greenage, just a contrast between that and the bottom. Just dabbing it in there. Scraping in some grass blades, a few fresh rocks. And we're closing in on the end. I hope you enjoyed me doing something different here. I like to change things up a little bit rather than just doing straight up paint videos. Think of something interesting, you know. Obviously, we all like to watch people paint. I watch tons of videos. But sometimes it just becomes the same old, same old. So I hope you enjoyed this little travel set. Hake and a travel pan set. They should sell them this way, huh? Hake and a travel pan set. So that's it for this video. We'll zoom in and we'll take a close-up look. Don't forget, if you have a chance, take a look at my eBay shop. Got a lot of paintings in there now. I've added quite a few. This one, I'll probably put this one in there too at some point. I don't charge a lot, but I really use it for buying more paint supplies. And I really I enjoy to know that they're out there and people are hanging them on their wall. Well, here it is. Here's the close-up of what we just did. I added a few little splotches of red after I stopped the camera rolling. I think it added a little something, some warmth or just a little splotches of color in there. And it was the red, whatever red was in this travel pan set. So that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please leave a comment. Thank you for subscribing. And everybody have a great week. Thank you.